Recording is on.
So the topic for today, we are looking at the planning projects. We have the previous lecture. We've looked at what we understand by project and project management. We look at the knowledge area. We look at the stakeholders. We look at various things that can give us a deeper understanding of what meant by project or managing project. But today, we want to look at the how do you plan project, planning projects. When you start initiate a project, the next thing you will do is to find out how to plan that project, because you cannot say you want to manage a project and you don't know how to plan it. Starting a project and not planning it, in other words, just start when you start a project and you just start executing the project, you say you will not go far before you know that you have made mistake. So like any other thing in life, before we can venture into anything, one thing you must do and we must be very sure about and clear about is that we must do planning. So project management is not an exemption. So you need to plan your project. Before you start executing your project, you must plan your project. So that is what you want to look at this morning, planning projects. So let's look at the contents of planning project now as a project manager. When we say planning project or plan project, what do we mean? For you to plan any project, you must create a project management plan. Yes, you must be able to document how you are going to manage or execute your project. So that's why we say planning starts with project management plan. The document that describe how the project will be executed. You know, I told you before you can say you are actually starting your project or executing your project, that's what I mean, you have to plan. But there's a document that you must create. That document is called project management plan. The document that describe how the project you are managing will be executed, how you are going to monitor the project against what you have planned, and if you discover that you are not working your plan, then how do you control it? Then how you close it when you finish that project? And project management plan include what? Subsidiary plans. All those knowledge area, you know, you created some plan from them. When we talk about the knowledge area, remember some of the knowledge area that you have described before, you need to plan them too. Like you say, communication management plan, stakeholder engagement plan, can you see? um Risk management plan. All those plan you make in that knowledge area, they are called the subsidiary plan. When you plan all those subsidiary plan, you bring them up into that document called project management plan. That's why you call it subsidiary plan. You have to plan for example now, your budget, you need to plan your budget. Cost management plan, you need to plan your schedule management plan. You need to plan your resources management plan. Remember, you need to plan your scope, the work you are going to do, scope management plan. So because, for example, you are talking about the resources you are going to use to execute and to do the work of your project, you need to plan for it. Resources, for example, when you say you are planning for resources, what are you trying to say? I'm saying that, oh Lord, I'm saying now that I need resources to do the work of my project. Number one, how will I get those resources? Who are the resources? Although resources can be both human resources and non-human resources, but assuming you are talking about human resources, Those resources that are human that I'm going to use to execute the work of my project, where can I get them? You are going to document it. Am I going to get them from my inside my organization, or am I going to look outside of my organization to get them? You are planning it. Number two, when I get them, uh, how will I assign the job to them? Or if I get them, how will I assign job to them? Then, if I assign the job to them, how will I improve their skill? How will I motivate them? If they don't follow the instruction and I've given them warning over and over, how will I discipline them? If there's a conflict among my human resources, how will I resolve the conflict? All those things you are going to put inside paper so that when you start the project, you now follow that plan. Those ones are called subsidiary plan. Then we also talk about baseline. Remember, if you remember the baseline I told you, baseline, we have about 4 or 5 baseline. We have scope baseline, we have cost baseline, we have schedule baseline and other baseline. That means that the standard that must guide you if you are doing your work, the standard that must guide you when you are managing your budget, the standard that must guide you when you are managing your time. Approved management plan baseline is a part of the project management plan. Then additional components, you are going to put them under the project management plan. All of them together made up of what? Project management plan. So the project management plan enables the project manager to execute. Don't forget that on exam. To monitor, control, and close your project. Then it establishes guardrails to maintain control. For example, as you are managing your project, you discover that you are not following the plan. The only thing that will help you to know is your project management plan. Because in a project, strictly in a project, what you are doing in a project, what you plan is what you must execute. So if as you are monitoring and controlling, you discover that what you actually doing in your project is not the what you are executing. That means you have gone out of the track. So the only thing that will make you to know whether you are on track is your project management plan. You must understand this very well. If you don't understand anything, you must understand this one. If you don't understand this one, when you see question, you will be thrown off. But look at this icon here. This icon means that when you are working under the traditional when you are using
Predictive.
waterfall method, this is what you are doing. But when you are talking about the what do you call it, like a can anybody
Adaptive.
adaptive method, yes.
Adaptive or agile.
What you are doing here, it establish a guide rail to maintain control. But when you are talking about the boats, they call it hybrid. Team can tailor their way of working and act quickly and flexibly. So that's for that. Just know that it's a document, very important document in your project that can help you to execute your project, help you to monitor how you are doing your project, whether you are following the project management plan, whether you are on track or are on track. Because as long you stop looking at the project management plan, you will be doing your own thing, which is not in alignment with your project management plan. How do you control and close? So we can say the other project document. This is why you need to be very careful when you are learning this course. There are other project documents that you created apart from the project management plan. But remember that the project management plan, when you created project management plan, all the stakeholders or the sponsor must ratify it and put a signature into it and approve that everybody we have all agreed, we are on the same page, in the same mind, that when we start executing this project, this is the document we are going to follow. So the key stakeholder, they will now append their signature into it. That means it has become standard that must be followed. standard, baseline, approved project management plan. That's what you understand that one? Approved project management plan is what? Who can ask me? Who can answer that question? The approved.
Baseline.
uh So we have other baseline too. It can be cost baseline, it can be schedule baseline, it can be scope baseline, it can be other baseline too. So there are other document you must create too, like a project document. That is, when you are doing your project, you are going to do a lot of documentation because it's very important. You'll be sharing information, sharing data, sharing a lot of documents because you are not the only one doing the project. We have the key stakeholder, we have your team member, you have the sponsor, you have the external stakeholders. So therefore, you are going to communicate important information. Those information need to be documented. You call all those one project documents. So documentation and content created by the team to plan and manage the project effectively. So some documents are project artifacts which need to be maintained because you need to maintain them throughout the lifespan of your project. You need to refer to those documents because there's some important information therein you need to share with your team member, share with the stakeholder, share with the sponsor, share with the external stakeholder, share with the internal stakeholder, and share with every other person that are related to the project. Artifacts. Anything that you created in your project, you can refer to it as artifacts. Sometimes you must also know how to archive them, that is, to maintain them, to store them in your database, so that whenever you need them again, you can know how to retrieve them. And to make sure that there are some information that you are in artifacts that must not be leaked to other third party who are not supposed to have a to see the information. But remember, they are not component of the project management plan. Any document you created while you are doing your project, that one is not a component. You are creating, you also create a project management plan. Apart from project management plan, all those plans, any other document you created, like for example now, like a project charter, it's a document you created that you use project charter to do what? Is the one that define your project, is the one that ratify your project, is the document that shows that your project is in existence. It is the document that give the project manager and the who the power and the authority to make use of the organizational resources to do the work of the project. You understand me? There are a lot of information in that project charter. That one is a document, but it's not a part of the project management plan. Know that one very well. But we know that when you are doing planning in any project, whether you are using adaptive method, hybrid, or you are using the traditional way of managing project, that is plan driven, each one of them has different approaches. For example, look at it, dragon. I say when we are doing this course, always look at this icon. This icon represents adaptive, incremental. This one say the combination of a waterfall and adaptive method. In the adaptive method, when you are doing planning, plan start from the product owner. Can you see? Last week I wanted to give you some time. Somebody said that we not be able to available and we couldn't make use of take opportunity of that. But I can run you through a scrum. The way the PMI did it, assume that you have understood a little bit of scrum, or you have read it by yourself. So in scrum, when you have a product owner is a somebody who interact, who connect with the user of your project, your end user, your customer, your organization, who are going to make use of the outcome of your project. So a product owner stand as an intermediary between your organization, between the project or within between the project team and the end user is the one that collect requirements. If I want to build an application, is the one who will liaise with the end user and ask the end user what are the features and function you want me to you want us to include in the application. So it is at the business side of of your project. So the product owner design objectives according to the customer needs, wants, and then the team will now collect the information and execute work and help the product owner to plan the work. That is how you do it in adaptive, and when you are using for example, we are using agile method. That is how you plan. Somebody will interact with the end user of what you are trying to create. I will ask you, you want to use this application. What are the things that you want me to add? How do you want us to create it? Which color do you want? Which button do you like? What is the interface? How do you want to build it? How big we want you to build it? To build it. So you collect those information. Then the product owner will now come to the development team and describe it to them exactly the way the end user will want to have it. Therefore, the product owner and the development team will now take that information and work according to that specification. That's why when you talk about agile and scrum, it's very easy. Because in agile or scrum, you are continuously collaborating with the user. That is why you walk through a sprint. You break down the work you are going to do in smaller quantity, in maybe you break down the work. For the whole application, you can break it into modules. You start with the first module, which is more useful to the user. As you are building that module, as you are executing the work of that module, you always collaborate with user. You build it, you show it to them, they verify it, they validate it, they will tell you it's okay, go ahead, or don't go ahead, you need to adjust this instantly. If you even make mistake, you see, you can see your mistake earlier. Not until when you finish the whole thing, you discover mistake. You come back again, you spend extra time, you spend extra money, you spend extra effort. That one, sometimes any mistake you made cannot be corrected again. It become wasted. That mistake has caused waste. But when you're talking about adaptive way of planning, that means it's just like as you are doing the planning, as you are executing the work of the project, you are showing it to the owner, the user, they will give you a feedback. That feedback will help you to improve. The planning there is very easy. That means you can make mistake very fast. You can make mistake earlier and you can quickly correct the mistake than to discover the mistake at the end of the whole project. Sometimes a mistake you made, you didn't check it earlier and you discover it at the end of the project, you discover that you waste resources, you waste energy, you waste time. Sometimes, even if you want to do the correction, sometimes the correction cannot be made again, it becomes scrapped. But in the traditional way of doing project, you will plan. You will plan everything you are going to do. You plan your budget, you plan your time, you plan your resources, you plan everything from the beginning to the end and begin to execute. Sometimes you don't collaborate with the users, and that's why we have problem. You are building a house. Just imagine you are building a house. You do the whole foundation. You didn't tell the whole foundation. You didn't show it to them. You go to the first level, second level. In such a case now, if you have a problem in the foundation and you have gone to the third level, fourth level, first story, and you know the foundation is the essence of a building. If the foundation is poor or it's not done properly, it cannot sustain the structure, then there will be problem. So you can see now, but when you are talking about the waterfall method, the team member are local domain experts in integration management. How work will be planned and completed. The same thing also happen in the agile method. So the project manager, the team lead, can you see, The scrum master is like a project manager in when you are using scrum or agile. He's a servant leader. It's not like you don't call him a project manager. It's only in the waterfall methodology when you're using waterfall to do your planning. You are talking about a project manager. But when you're talking about the scrum methodology, a scrum master is just like a project manager, but it's not a project manager. It's a leader that is a servant leader. He doesn't lord he doesn't lord it over the team member. He's just a facilitator. He helps them to facilitate what they are doing, their work. The only time he will intervene is that when they are not following the scrum methodology. Then we will now correct them and say, okay, this is what you are going to do. As long as our organization has adopted that method of doing our project. So he facilitate them and allow the team member to make decision, because the team member are the people who are going to physically execute the work of the project. So he allow them, give them environment. You understand me? Environment that is conducive for them then to be able to think and plan and arrange themselves by themselves and know how they are going to do the work of the project. He only guide them, motivate them, inspire them, encourage them, provide an environment for them to do what? To do the work of the project in such a way that they can focus. At the end of the day, they can provide a value. They can design, they can deliver a kind of software or any other thing they are building. They can deliver a software or any other thing that can deliver value to the end user, or that can deliver value to the organization, or that can deliver value to the customer. That's how they do their planning. So let's look at the planning across the life cycles. Now we have different kind of life cycle. We have predictive life cycle. That is a waterfall methodology. We have hybrid life cycle, the combination of the predictive and adaptive. Adaptive is the one that you do your project work, you plan your work incrementally. You don't want to plan everything from the beginning to the end at once. The one that is useful to the user, you concentrate on it and you do it frequently and you plan it exactly what you need now. It save your time. It help you to focus. Incremental planning. So let's look at planning across the life cycle. Let us look at the predictive life cycle, hybrid life cycle, adaptive life cycle. Let us look at this criteria. When you are collecting requirement from stakeholder or requirement specification, requirement is what are the feature and function that the end user want to see by the time you finish the project. In predictive life cycle, define in specific time before the development. That's what I've been telling you. Before you do development, you have the you have gotten a lot of requirement from stakeholders, which may not even be useful. Which after some time, even the people who gave you the requirement, they are changing their mind, and yet you collected everything from the beginning. You start building it. This is where adaptive is different. You collect the only portion that is necessary now, portion that will be useful for what you are doing now. Even if the stakeholder, the user of that application, whatever you are building, change their mind, it doesn't really affect you. That means you fail very fast, you quickly you quickly discover error and quickly make the correction of that error. In hybrid, can you see elaborated periodically? Elaborated mean that you make it, you elaborate it, that is in full. He said periodically because hybrid is a combination of a predictive and adaptive during delivery. But when you come to adaptive, elaborated frequently, that is frequently. That means you only elaborate the portion of the work you are doing now. You plan what you want to do now. That is not in nutshell. You only plan for the work you want to do in a small scale. Let's look at the outcome. Deliver at the end of the project. That's what I told you. You are just building a house. You build the foundation, you do the foundation, first floor, second floor, third floor, fifth floor. Nobody even check what you are doing. Stakeholder who want to use it, you don't even engage them. What happen if you make mistake along the way? You need to go back again. But in hybrid, because it's the combination of the predictive and adaptive, you can say can be divided into pieces. You can do it incrementally because you are combining them. But basically, when you are talking about that adaptive alone, you are using adaptive method alone. Deliver after each iteration. For example, now if you are creating an application, it's in module one, maybe accounts receivable or account payable. You break that account receivable to smaller unit. Under that unit, you call it epic, future, epic. You now take part of it and run through a sprint. You do it. As you are doing it, you show it to the owner, the user. You collaborate with them. Do you understand me? You engage with them. They observe it. They look at it. You demonstrate it to them. If it's okay, go ahead and go to the next next work. That called sprint. A sprint can be a 30 days. But what is most important under the adaptive, the outcome is that everything you are building, you do it in iteration, you do it incrementally, you show it to the stakeholder. The stakeholder look at the value. Okay, this is the value you are looking for, or this is the value you are not looking for. Go back again and redo it immediately before you go far. When you are making changes in your when you are making change, you say constrain as much as possible. Predictive and life cycle does not really encourage changing. They are not expecting changes. When it comes to changes, you can have problem in that area. But when you talk about hybrid, the combination of predictive and adaptive, you can incorporate a periodic interval for the changes. But this is the best one, incorporated in real time during delivery. When you are delivering, even there's any change, the team member, the Scrum team member can adapt quickly to the changes. If the customer changes their requirement, they change the way they have told you to do it before, you say, this is the way we want you to do it now. You can quickly adapt to the changing needs. That one say Scrum method or methodology helps the team member to adapt to the changing needs of the changing requirements of the stakeholder. Stakeholder involvement, when you are using predictive, they are only involved at specific milestone, a specific maybe the most important area of the work. You can just engage them. That's their own. What about the other area? No. If it's hybrid, regularly, because hybrid is the combination of predictive and adaptive. But when it is adaptive, continuously you are involving the stakeholder. Continuously you are engaging with stakeholder. Continuously, as you are building the application or whatever you are doing, whatever you are executing, you are showing it in real time. You are delivering, you are showing to them, they look at it, you demonstrate it to them. They are satisfied, you go ahead. You are not satisfied, you go and redo it back. You can see when it comes to risk and cost control, we have talked about risk before. Everybody know in this course what we mean by risk. A risk are the uncertain event that can occur or happen in your project work, so that when it happen, it can either damage your project, in one of your project objectives, or help you to achieve your project objectives. We have negative risk and positive risk. Your strengths, weakness, opportunity and threat. Your opportunity is your positive risk. You do more of that thing because it's going to favor you. Negative risks are the thing you have to limit in your project. At the same time, you are talking about cost. So when you come to the planning across the life cycle, we are talking about predictive. You say that through the detailed planning, you do all the detailed planning here. That is where risk will come in. You do the detailed planning of what you are going to do for in the next 6 months. Within the next 6 months, you discover that even what you plan will not be relevant again because event has made that planning to be useless, because a lot of things will have happened before within that 6 months. You are not factoring that in risk can occur, unusual event can occur, because it's a risk. Anything can happen in life, and you are planned for it, and the risk occur. Risk mean that uncertain. When we say something is a risk, it means something is not certain. Then you now plan for 6 months. You don't factor in that uncertain thing can happen. In that case now, that's why predictive is not too effective. But there are some projects you are going to do because you have done such a project before. Previously, you have done a similar project before. That means the project is well defined. You can know the kind of risk that can come up. That case, there are some projects you can do like that one. But there are some projects that are highly risky. You cannot determine whether anything can happen or not, nothing can happen. But in such a case, if you use predictive method, life cycle, you are wasting your time. Risk go along with cost. When the event actually occur, especially if it is negative one, you know how it's going to impact on your cost. Since you plan everything from the beginning to the end, you've done it. You don't collaborate with the stakeholder. You don't involve with them. You now make mistake toward the end, toward the tail end of the project. That means you need to go back again and redo it. By redoing it, it has cost implication. That's what you are saying. But when you look at the adaptives, it's done as requirements and constraint emerge. When there's a problem, when there's a constraint, or when I got the requirement from them, I can quickly I can see the risk because I have emphasized the risk. I'm ready. I'm expecting there may be risk or there should be a risk. I prepare for it. The mindset when you are talking about agile, the mindset is that the people who adopt the adaptive life cycle or agile or scrum, they have a mindset that there must be, there will be, there can be risk. Then we are ready to adapt to that risk because we didn't plan everything. We only plan a portion that is relevant to the need of the user. And when that need, the user change their mind, we also, we have created a mindset, we are ready to adapt. You can see planning. So we have looked at the differentiation of planning in predictive and adaptive approaches. Let's look at the scope. Everybody know about scope now. We know that scope is the work and the only work you must do and you are going to do when you are managing the work of your project, so that any work that is not relevant, it must be outside your project work. If you add anything that you did not plan, or a stakeholder just come to you and say, can you help me to put this feature and function, then that's what they call scope creep. It's not part of the project management plan until when that new thing that they want to add is approved by the stakeholder who originally approved the project management plan. If you add that feature, that means you are doing the work that is outside the scope. So that is why you need to understand when we say scope in a project, you are doing the work and only the work that is required for you to be able to do what? To achieve the project objective. Project scope or product scope. There are difference between project scope and product scope. When you say product scope, you are doing the work. You are adding feature and function. For example, if you are building, if you want to build an application or you want to create phone, handphone, mobile phone, you are building mobile phone. Okay, how will the screen look like? That's a product scope. How the button will look like? Is it a screen touch or that thing? These are the product scope. The feature and function that must be available, that must be put in that mobile phone. But project scope means what? Not only the feature and function, it also includes the work you are going to do to create that mobile phone so that you can be able to put the relevant feature and function there. So the difference between the two is that project scope is more comprehensive than product scope. Product scope means that when I'm building a car, you say this car must have 5 tires. This car must have screen, double wiper. This car must have six seats. This car must have maybe here AC, air conditioner, all the feature. So these are the product scope, the feature and function that must be available, that must put in that product. But when it says project scope, it also contains the feature and function and the type of work, the work you are going to do to produce that product. Understand the two clearly. Then we look at adaptability and resilience in planning. You know, planning, just say, let me document how I'm going to manage my cost, how I'm going to manage my time, how I'm going to manage my resources. You document it you understand me? How I'm going to manage my risk in my project. How am I going to manage the stakeholder? That is now, if you look at environment in which you are doing your project, there are some environment that are not friendly. That means it make your work, the project work, very complex. So when you are managing a project in an environment where it's not conducive, whereby a lot of maybe restriction, you understand me? That place, how do you now navigate in that environment? So in that case, you'll be doing what they call rolling wave planning. What's a rolling wave planning? A form of progressive elaboration. When I say something is elaboration, that means in details. But this one is a progressive elaboration. That means you will not plan everything. As you get enough information about the work of the project, you do it. You wait for the other information to come and do it. Do the work. It's a form of progressive elaboration applied to work packages. That is the work you are doing. When you break down your project work into smaller elements, you call it work package. You can say I'm building 5-story building. I can say foundation is a work package. First floor is a work package. That's
Okay.
what I mean. Then you can also play that work package. Now you are going to plan it, but you do it progressively. You don't plan everything fully, because anything can change. If it will change, then have a mindset you must adapt. This thing happen most when you are using strong methodology. You ask yourself, what am I going to do now that is more relevant to the stakeholder? What am I going to do now that is more useful to the stakeholder? That thing that is useful to the stakeholder now, I will plan it now. So I also know when I'm going to release it, that part to the stakeholder. So I plan it. You can see a form of progressive elaboration applied to work package, planning package. You plan whatever you want to do now that is more relevant to the stakeholder. And when are you going to release that part of the whole of the project? So you can use an adaptive or predictive approach to do this, especially when you are doing your project in a non-friendly environment. You should be able to adapt. At the same time, don't allow that environment that is strict to cow you. Resilience means that you must find a way out to making sure that you adapt. Don't allow that situation to press you such a way that you don't know what to do. So the same thing happen in planning. Your planning should be one that you be able to adapt, especially when you are using adaptive method. If the customer come and tell you the requirement we gave to you earlier on, we are changing our mind, and you have gone far. Of course, you cannot go far in adaptive because of what? You didn't plan everything. You plan the only a portion. So even if they want to make if they want to make changes, you can easily adapt to that changes. You don't want to go far and make a lot of mistake. So make mistake earlier. You understand me? Confront problem earlier. Confront and make a mistake earlier. Then you can quickly correct that mistake. Instead of that mistake, you do a lot of mistake that you need to come back again, which is going to cause you a lot of problem. You call that thing. So if you are doing your project like this, you call it MVP. Is there anybody who understand what I mean by MVP? Anybody can help me to you understand what I mean by MVP? MVP.
Most valuable person to be satisfied with.
Thank you very
Satis-
much. I like that. You see, that is why adapt. I like adaptive. Adaptive is that you quickly do the project. Don't do everything. You do part of it. You focus on it and do it well. You engage the stakeholder. You give it to them. They go and use it. It's working, oh, it's working, but it does not contain all the feature and function. So when they use it, they will not come back to you. They will not give you a feedback. Say, okay, this product you have produced for us is good, it's working. But as we are using it, we discover that we still need some feature and function. But at least you have given them something they can use first. Then you now get a feedback. That feedback will help you to improve that product. Most valuable product. That is why when you are using adaptive method or you are using Scrum, it help you. Number one, you quickly go to the market. Your product will reach the market on time. That product can do the work for whoever is going to use that product, the end user. The end user will now use it and say, okay, can you help us to put additional feature? Number one, it make your work to be easier from the beginning. It is cost effective. It make your team member to be able to do the work without even if in a complex environment, you can still produce something. That's what I mean. It is more efficient way of doing a project. It's effective way of doing project. Cost effective way of doing project. You understand me? Even if there's a problem, you can discover the problem earlier. You understand me? MVP. You say, wow, you are building. You what you are building is actually useful, but it's useful to us. At the same time, maybe there are some future that we still need. It's not your fault. We discover that this product is useful, but it will be more useful to us if you still help us to add this feature and function. Number one, your organizational benefit. You reach the market on time. You meet the needs of the stakeholder. Stakeholder still needs more things. Then you adapt to their needs. Now, if you look at this area, it's talking more about agile. That is why we must find a time during the week to look at the agile fully. I want to teach agile and scrum for you. So when you see something like a product roadmap, you not be asking what's a product roadmap. Product roadmap is just like when you look at your project from the you can preview, you can look at your project from the beginning and the end. How you are going to do it from the beginning to the end. What does it involve from the beginning to the end? It's like you are looking at a city, Lagos City. You are inside an aeroplane in a plane. If you know when the thing is coming down, you can see part of the Lagos. You can see from one end to another end. The same thing in your project. You want to look at what are the things you will do from the beginning to the end in a nutshell. In a nutshell, what you are going to do. You call it product roadmap. You say envision and plan the big picture. You cannot do the whole thing at a time, but you can see everything you are going to see in a nutshell. Display product strategy. If you are creating a project that has to do with product and the direction you are going to take and the value to be delivered, you know. Can you see? That's what they call product roadmap. I want to create a product. I envision the product. I plan the product, the big picture. I can display the product in form of a diagram, even though I have not produced it. You understand me? I can display the product. I can, hello. I can display the product. I can help myself. This is the strategy I'm going to use to display the product. This is the direction I'm going to follow. These are the value. By the time I create this product or I finish this project, this is the value it will be delivered to the end user. It leads to with what? The overarching product vision and use progressive elaboration to refine vision. When I can see everything I want to do from the beginning to the end, that's a vision. So I can see what can be problem, what can be challenges. I can see the direction. I can see where it's like to be problem. So when you are managing a project, you are using adaptive method. You are going to create what they call product roadmap. You can use team and say, what is the goal of this project? What is the overall goal of this project? Uses teams to provide structure and association. Then you provide a short time and long time visualization. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do next after now? What are you going to do after then now? That's what we are talking about, product roadmap. So if you are using adaptive or incremental way of managing your project life cycle, that life cycle, it is the product owner will create what they call product roadmap, looking have an overview of the all the elements and the components of your project and the work you are going to do. You understand me? High level looking. Then by looking at it, you will be able to see some important area of your project. Like when you are building a house, you see we call something marker, milestone. If you are building a house like a 5-story building, one of your milestone is the first is the foundation. You can call that one a milestone because it's very important in that building of that house. Because if the foundation of the house is poorly done, it's going to affect all the structure. So he said this is a milestone. By the end of 3 months, we should have finished building the foundation. So the milestone consists of what? Markers for big events, for review when you want to do the review of the major things in your project. The due date that foundation will be available, all the payment and decision making. E go also be prompt for reporting requirement. You know, in your project you do a lot of requirement. You report a lot of you give information to the user, like the sponsor, or you want the customer or the user of that application, whatever you are doing, to approve. That's what they call prompt. Reporting the requirement, reporting how far you have gone. Milestone. Then that milestone, remember, for exam, is created by project manager, or it could also be by customer, or both of them. That by the end of the 3rd month, you should have finished the foundation. When you finish it, it's a requirement from us. How do you report it to the user or the sponsor who sponsor it? Then there be a milestone list. You can say second floor is another milestone, third floor is another milestone, fourth floor is another milestone. So you are going to create a milestone list. A milestone list identify all milestone and indicate which one is mandatory. For example, now when you are building a house, um if you are building a house, foundation is mandatory, because any mistake you make in the foundation then when you sign a contract, when you are doing a project, the people who are supplying you resources, you sign contract with them, or you sign a contract with the users, you sign a contract with the sponsor or the customer. Those area are they called mandatory. The one that are not mandatory, maybe you can estimate it from the information from your previous project you have done. It's optional. So that one, those lists are called optional. There are certain things you do in your project, they are optional. You can look at what you have done in the past, historical information, used to determine, you understand me, what you are going to do. But there are some ones that are so important, it's mandatory. There are some milestones that are mandatory, that by it is very important that you do them. Not only doing those work of that those work that make up that milestone, but that work must be done properly. That work must be reported to the user. You must engage the user. Those are the things we are talking about here. Now, when it says scope planning, everybody know that when scope is work, and only the work required for you to be able to do the work of your project. The work required, only the work that is required when you are doing the work of your project. If you look at this icon, this is a waterfall methodology. It's saying what? Is the project manager that facilitates the collect requirement process. You know, before you start doing the work of the project, you have to collect requirement from the stakeholder. Requirement collection and requirement documentation. You understand? So if you look at that icon, in the traditional way of doing it, you discover that you discover that it's a project manager that does that. But when it comes to the um Scrum methodology, or you are doing your work incrementally, it is the product owner that collect requirement. I think I told you before, is the one that act as an in that interact with the team and the user. You know, in when you're talking about the incremental way of doing your project work, we have the scrum master, we have the product owner, we have the development team. So the development team are the people who are going to who is going to the team is going to design whatever you are going to produce. But the product owner is the one that must do the business side. He must contact with the user and ask the user, what do you want me to do? What are the feature and function that must include in this work I'm doing, so that by the time we finish this project, you will be satisfied. So remember in exam, who collect requirement from the user in adaptive or iterative maybe life cycle, it is the product owner. When you're talking about um, predictive, who collect requirement from the stakeholder, is the project manager and his team. So that's what they are telling you here. Document requirement. When you collect the requirement from the stakeholder, what are the things that you want me to add to the work I'm doing so that they can give you value? So you document requirement in what? Scope statement. When you document the requirement, you put it inside a scope statement. Don't forget, for exam, collect the requirement, define the scope, you put the requirement in a document called scope statement, a text or a document that the thing that you collect from the stakeholder, come and put it in a paper the way you understand it, the way you think that the customer wants to be done. Scope statement. After you have documented it, now you now break down the thing you want to do in a smaller unit called work breakdown structure. Have we heard about WBX? If I collect requirement from the stakeholder, I document the requirement inside the scope statement. From the scope statement, I will transfer it and I don't want to build everything. I will now break down the scope of my work into smaller units, because I cannot do everything at once. After I've break down the work of the project into smaller elements so that I can have firm control over it. I can focus on what is more important or what is not important. I will now develop the schedule. Schedule mean what? When I'm doing this work, how long will you do help me? How long will it take me to do the task? It is when I know how long will it take me to do, I can do the budget. I can know how many resources I'm going to use. They are all related. You know the work you are going to do. You collect requirement from the stakeholder. You collect what you think the stakeholder wants in the product. You document it in scope statement. You now take it from scope statement. You now break down the work, WBS, work breakdown structure. After you break the work down, you want to start doing the work. You are going to do the work, the tasks, the activities. You have to break it down to time. In project, schedule is a constraint. If I'm digging or building a wall, maybe I'm building a wall around a particular place. I say, how long will it take me to build this wall? Or how long will it take me to paint this wall? You have to put time. Then when I'm building it, how much am I going to use to do the painting? You not know how much you are going to use to do the painting until you also know how many resources that you are going to use to do the painting. Do you understand me? Very important you understand this area. That's why I'm anything you see me, reiterating, I'm repeating, is showing you that it's very important to you when you are doing your project practically. Not only that, when you are doing the exam. So that's how it works. This is what you do under waterfall methodology. Collect requirement, but the project manager collect requirement from the user, the stakeholder. He document it in a scope statement. He break down from the scope statement, he break the work down into work breakdown structure. From there, he now start doing the job. You cannot do, if you want to do the job, time will be involved, budget will be involved, resources will be involved. Then you need to also plan, because it is when you are doing the work, you want to do the quality work. You also need to plan quality. So you plan the schedule, you plan the budget, you plan the resources, both human resources and non-human resources who are going to do the work of the project, and the quality that is standard that is required for you to do the work. You have to deliver it, to deliver the requirement. But when you come to the product owner, he creates and refine release backlog. Now, I've not told you about backlog. Backlog is when a product owner interfaces with the user or end user or the customer, all the requirement he gather, all the call it user story. When it come to the uh, um, iterative method, that means adaptive method, you call it user story requirement. That user story, you collect it from the user, you put it in a component in a particular area called backlog. All the requirement, all the user story you collected from the user, the feature and function they expect in what you are doing, all the quality they want, you put it in a backlog, so that when you want to go and start building that application, whatever you are doing, you do it in iteration, because you only plan the work that is more important, that will help you to create what is more important to the user now. Don't plan everything. Can you see? I want you to understand now. If I've taken you in that scrum, this one I will not be emphasizing more. So a product owner, unlike project manager, he will create and refine release backlog for iteration. Iteration means that you are not doing the work at the time. You keep on doing the work. When you reach another sprint, you do another one. Another sprint, you do another one. When you do this one, you produce it. It is okay. You display it to the user. The user, they say, go ahead, go to the next one, go to the next sprint. In this one, you do sprint by sprint. Sprint can take about 30 days. The time period you are going to do the work is called sprint. So in the first sprint, you take the user story from the backlog, you plan it with the development team. They will now do it in that sprint. You demonstrate it to the user. They call that one increment. If it is okay, you put it apart. You go again to the next sprint and take the next work and do it. As you are doing the work, you create an increment. You show it to the user. You demonstrate it to them. They say it's okay. You put it apart, because you are doing that work in module. So that's how you do the plan in this one. Plan it the work iteratively. Then explain each prioritized user story in detail to the team. That means you can only show details in the work you are doing now. Maybe you are talking about the first module. You can now concentrate on that module, explain it fully. That module is what is required of you to do now. So the user story are the requirement that the user want to see by the time you finish that sprint, called increment. Now look at the team. The team estimate effort required and create the iteration baseline, selecting the story to meet the expected velocity for the iteration. Velocity means that how long can you quickly create that user story, the requirement. Then the team places user story from, they will take the user story from the product backlog into the release backlog. That is, when am I going to release this product, called increment, to support identify feature and function, which is part of the user story. You can also create what they call user story map, so that what is the sequence you are going to do the work of the user story, and prioritize user story in the release backlog. They call something backlog. Backlog is just like what? It's a prioritized list of the feature and function, or the user story, or what is more important to the user. This is what you are going to do first. This is what you are going to do next. This is what you are going to do next, based on the value it's going to deliver to the user. So you can now say that a product backlog is a prioritized list of item or user story or requirement that will help you to build the work, do the work of the project. That means that at the top of the product backlog, what is the most important to the user that can deliver value quickly to the user, you put it at the top of the product backlog. That's why I say a product backlog is a prioritized list of requirements or item or user story that can help you to quickly create a product that can deliver value to the end user. It's like you have a container. That container contains everything you are going to do to create a product. Now I say, okay, at the top of that container, the most important thing I must do now, that can quickly meet the need of the customer, at the same time that can deliver value, the work item, the feature and function, the user story that's important, I put it at the top. So that means that it is the product owner that help us to prioritize that user story. What is most important, we put it at the top. Next important thing you put, and he will value it, and he will also know the effort that we need to create that work item. Very important. So look at it now. Get started with requirement. You cannot start your project without first getting requirement from the stakeholder. Everybody know here now that what mean by requirement, what is more important to the user. Help me to build a pair of shoes. I want the shoe to be black color. I want it to be not to be too high. I want it that the inner part of the shoe should have a cushion effect so that it not peel my leg. Those are the requirements. That's how I want the shoe. That's what are the thing I want to build for me. I want the mount of the shoe to be pointed. That's what I mean. I want you to put Dunlop inside the shoe. So when you are building something for me, you must first ask me, what do you want? How do you want it? Do you understand me? What are the quality requirement? What are the feature and function? That is requirement. So before you can start any project as a project manager, if you are using traditional way of doing your project or you are using adaptive way, you must first collect requirement. It's the project manager that collect requirement when it comes to waterfall method. When it comes to adaptive method, it is the one who collect requirement from the user. Who can tell us if you are still there?
Product owner.
Thank you very much. That's the message I want to pass to you. So in predictive project, requirements are elicited and set at the beginning of the project. But when you come to the, can you see this on me, adaptive or incremental? Incremental means that you do it, you do one in a sprint, you come back again, you redo it, you don't do it well, you have to do it well before you go. Sort of user story. In this case now, you don't call requirement now. In this way, you call it user story. A different way of thinking about the requirement process. But he said when you combine the two together, maybe hybrid project may elicit and refine requirement or compose of user story. Can you see? You can still collect. There are some projects you are going to do. You can combine predictive method with adaptive method. If you are building an application, you can use adaptive way of creating that product. But when you want to install the application inside, you can build an application, but there's a software that will make that application to work. You can now use predictive way of doing that one, because to install application into a system, you can use predict method. Is what you have been doing over and over. But when you want to create the engine, you want to create a part of that application, you use adaptive. So there's a project that you do like a software. You first build the hardware, you build the software. The hardware you can use adaptive, but the software when you want to install it, you don't need to do adaptive. That one is straight for predictive. That's why I say maybe hybrid project may elicit and refine requirement or compose of user story. So understand that very well. Requirement, what are they and what do we need them? What are they? Why do we need them? A requirement is one single measurable statement of condition or capability. When you are building a solution for me, you are building a product for me, whatever you are building, anything, you are creating a project around anything for me, that thing is called capability. What will be the capability of that thing? What can that thing do? If that thing cannot do what I have, it cannot meet my need. If you build something for me, it cannot meet my need, that means the capability is low. It has no capability that can feature my need. So it tests how a product or service or result satisfy a business need. If you meet my need, you meet my business need. If it's organization, enterprise, it meets your enterprise need. If it's an end user, it must meet the end user need. That is why you must take time and elicit information, idea, or get exactly how and what the end user of what you are doing or the project you are doing, how do they want it, where do they want it, when do they want it, what are the quality requirements. So it's a guideline for what? Guideline for use. Start at high level before providing details. High level. Whenever you talk about high level in a project, we mean at the summary level. When you are collecting requirement from stakeholder or user, it must be unambiguous. When you say something is unambiguous, it must be very clear. You must verify and validate. You must understand it before you start the work. Must be unambiguous. And it must be measurable. You must assign value to it. I'm able to finish 20%, 30%, 40%. You must be able to test it. When I build an application in module, if module 1, module 2, module 3, I will first test that module, especially in the adaptive method. I will test it, I will demonstrate it to the end user. The end user look at it. Does it look like what you are looking for? Is this application, the screen, is it comfortable? We can press it. Is the button is well placed where you want it? Is it doing the functional work? You must be able to trace it. I can trace what I've done back to the requirement you give to me. If I build something for you, for me to know that I build it right, I must be able to trace this what I built to the requirement and see, does it look like the requirement you give to me? And it must be complete. Can you see? That's why requirement is very important. Before you can ever start any project, it's very important and very key that must go to the user and collect requirement from them. The requirement must be ambiguous, it must be measurable, it must be testable, it must be traceable, it must be complete, it must be consistent, and must be acceptable to the key stakeholder. That is why you have to go and gather it, document it, come back, put in the statement, break the work down to work breakdown structure, then do the work. So that is why, as a project manager, when you want to collect requirement from the stakeholder, what they call you must document the requirement. You call it requirement documentation. And when you are documenting it, they say that you can use requirement traceability matrix to do that. So a simple format, a document listing all requirements that from the stakeholder. You create this kind of a document called requirement traceability matrix. A document listing all requirements categorized by stakeholder or priority. So you call that one requirement traceability matrix. It contain what? If you look at this place, say when you want to collect requirement, ask yourself, what's the project name? What is the cost center? What is the project description? What is the ID of that scope of the work you are going to do? How do you associate the part of the project or the part of the scope with one another? What is the requirement description? Okay, you are building an application for me, or you are building a handphone or mobile phone. That mobile phone, the screen must be the one that I can touch. Requirement description. You can say business need. How does it meet my need? What is the project objective? You are building the project objective. How does it fit in with the requirement? What is WBX? What breakdown structure? How are you going to build? How are you going to break down the work? Do you understand me? Product design. How are you going to do design? You are going to describe it here. You design a product. You do what? You develop a product. How do you develop it? You are going to put it here. How are you going to test what you produce? Test cases, you put it here. For all the activities you are going to, all the requirement you collected, you are going to fill this form. So that means what you are going to do for the stakeholder, the work you are going to do, the nature of the work, how you are going to do it, the way the stakeholder wants you to do it, you need to document them. You call it document requirement. So you use what they call requirement traceability matrix. Why do you call it a traceability matrix? When I finish building that, doing the application, so I can trace it back to the requirement. I can compare what I build with the requirement. If what I build does not align with the requirement, I've not done anything. So don't forget, for an exam, that document that you use to document the requirement you gather from the stakeholder, so that when you finish building the application, whatever you are doing as a project manager and your team, you can compare it with the initial requirement. If the initial requirement does not look like, what you build does not look like the initial requirement, that means you are out of the scope. Then not only that one, you must also develop what they call requirement management plan. How are you going to manage the requirement? You gather a lot of feature and function. You gather user story from the user. Then you must know how to plan the requirement. How do you track the requirement? Tracking of requirement. Because there are going to be a lot of requirement. There are different stakeholders with different requirements. Yes. How do you track it? How do you prioritize the requirement? Because not all the requirement will be useful. You can only use the requirement that will also deliver highest value to the stakeholder. So how do you manage the requirement? Because some stakeholder will tell you, but what about my requirement? You didn't make sure there's a way you are going to plan in such a way to make them to understand that requirement, we will put it in the next work. But for this work we are doing now, it cannot tally with what you are doing. Because we put it there, it will not deliver value. So you must design or create requirement management plan. What do you use requirement management plan to do? To plan, to track, and to report on the requirement activities. As you are doing the work of the project, you are going step by step. You are creating report. So who are you creating report for? They are the stakeholder. They are the people you gather requirement from, and there are many of them. Sometimes they may require you to give them some information about what you are doing. So that's what you are doing here. You call it configuration management activity. That's the when you create your requirement management plan, these are the content. Configuration management plan activity include what? Version control rules. When you make changes in your project work, one is version 1, version 2, version 3. Why are you creating version? If you make any changes, that means that's the old version. A new version, you give it another name. This is the current one now. Version control rules, impact analysis, tracing, tracking, and reporting of the requirement, require authorization level for change. If the requirement you give to you want to change the requirement, you must subject it to what they call change control process. So those things are part of the requirement management plan. How do you make any changes? I have gathered requirement already from the stakeholder, the feature and function, and the user story, what they want in the project I'm doing. Then they now make a changes. You have to tell them that you are the one who approved what I want to do before. Now you are making changes. That changes, I cannot change it independently as a project manager. I have to subject it to what they call integrated change control process. So they must seek approval again from them and say, put your signature that you are the one who say I should do these changes. Otherwise, they will implicate you. Then how do you prioritize the most important requirement? What are the process or criteria you can use to prioritize requirement? Because when you are gathering requirement from stakeholder, it can be up to 1,000 requirement. So how do you know the one that you use, that you prioritize? What are the metrics you are going to use to measure the product and accompanying rationale behind it? Metric means how do you measure? How do you trace? Traceability structure, including requirement attributes. So that's what you are doing. But for the sake of exam, there are different types of requirement. It is you to go and study this by yourself. What are the types? We have a project requirement. What's the project requirement? The action, the processes, condition the project must meet. That's what they call project requirement. When you when you are doing your project, that's what they call project requirement. By the time you finish this project, the requirement that this project must meet for it to be acceptable is project requirement. What are the product requirement? I explained this one before. What are the feature and function you must put in whatever you are developing? Let's say I'm using mobile phone. This mobile phone, I want it to be that the screen is touch one. This is the size of this mobile phone. This mobile phone must have a camera that the eye has high resolution. All those things you are putting there now are called product requirement. Something that is functional, feature and characteristics of the product, or if it is service or result that will meet the business or stakeholder requirement. I say build a phone for me. This phone, I want to be a touch screen. I want that the camera should be high resolution. So when I take a picture with it, it should be very clear. So those are the or non-functional requirement. Then another requirement is what? Quality requirement. Condition or criteria needed to validate the successful completion of a project deliverable or fulfillment of other project requirement. That's a quality aspect. There's one to give me future. Can can the future work well the way I want it? The another one is called business requirement. This is high level organization need. Reason for the project. Your projects must tally, must align with our organizational strategic objectives. Stakeholder requirement. Stakeholder needs. That project must meet the stakeholder need. For example, reporting requirement. Every stakeholder wants you to give them feedback of what you are doing. You give them feedback, report. You understand me? The progress report. So that's requirement. Transition or readiness. Temporary capability needed to transit successfully to the desired future need. If I say you should do something for me, if I say we say that whenever you are managing a project, because your organization need improvement, so you have a present state. Your present state is the state you are in your organization is a state of need, a state where we need improvement. There are something we are doing, we are not doing very well. So you look at the present state. We want to improve what we are doing now. Probably we want to improve our processes. Our process is not capable of meeting the need of our customer. Then we want to improve it. That's our need. Then how do you transit from the present state to the future state? Future state is the state of improvement. So that kind of a transition is called transition requirement. How do you move from the present state to the future state? How do you close the gap of the present state with the future state, the state of improvement? Go and read all those things. Then the exam will ask you, or when you are doing your project, what are the requirement collection process? How do you gather requirement from users, the stakeholder, the key stakeholder, non-key stakeholder? You say these are the process. You can use expert judgment. If you don't know what to do, you can engage the work of an expert, a consultant. He will teach you or tell you your how you can collect requirement from the user. You cannot say you want to collect requirement because you are going to be dealing with human being. To deal with human being and to collect information from them about what they want, you must have what they call interpersonal team skill. How do you communicate? How do you approach user? How do you approach the end user? How do you approach the stakeholder? They are human being. So there are different techniques you can use to do. But to do that one, you need what they call interpersonal and team skill. The example of interpersonal and team skill are what? Phenomenal group techniques. When you want to collect information from people in a group setting, how do you collect it? You can also use observation. I want to build a new machine for you. The present machine, I want you to be using it. I will observe it how you are using it. So I will know when I want to build a new one, how to build it better because I'm observing. It can be through facilitation, can be group of stakeholder. There will be a facilitator who will now facilitate a meeting. So through that one, you can interview them and collect requirement from them. Data gathering by brainstorming. Yeah, that's another way you can collect requirement. Brainstorming section on a meeting. You can interview each of the stakeholder one on one, face to face, and gather requirement. You can design questionnaire or survey, list of question. By you design a question and ask them, this project I am doing, there are requirement I want to gather from you. What do you want me to include, feature and function? So you design it in a questionnaire or you conduct a survey. You can use a benchmark. Benchmark simply mean that there's a standard somewhere, maybe in your industry. If it's a financial industry or insurance industry or what they call it, other industry or technology industry, you must see in your industry a particular organization is doing something better than any other person. So that one will start as a benchmark. So that for you to say that you are collecting the right requirement, you must be able to meet this benchmark. That is the standard that is acceptable. For you to say you want to build an application, look at an organization in your industry that has built such an application that is globally accepted. So you are going to measure your own with that. That's another way you can collect requirement. Anytime you collect a requirement from stakeholder, you need to analyze it. So you call it document analysis. You can go to your organization, the previous document of the past project that has been done. You can look at the document, analyze it. You can get requirement, you can discover requirement from that. You can use alternative analysis. That means you can have many gather different requirement and see which one can better for your project. You can do product analysis. That you can break down the product and look at it, analyze the product of maybe a similar organization who is doing the similar project. You analyze the product so that you can know what exactly the customer wants in the product. Then one of the way you can collect requirements is what? Decision making techniques. When you are in a meeting, you can vote. How many of us want that this mobile phone you want to create for us, I want to be a touch screen. I want it to be that the button should be at this side. I want the color to be red. I want that the what they call camera, this is the resolution we want. So you vote. That's another techniques. It could be also multi-criteria decision. For you to be able to say, I'm going to use this type of requirement, there must be something that will act like a criteria. This thing must have this, it must have this feature, it must have this feature. If it can contain all these about 5 feature, then it can serve as a requirement. We call it multi-criteria decision analysis. Because you are collecting requirements to a stakeholder, it is not all the requirement that will be useful. So what are the criteria you are going to use to decide which requirement you collect for your project? Then any requirement that you collected, you must put it in form of a diagram, data representation. They call it mind mapping. You are going if I will begin to explain all these things, we use three hours to do one page. What I'm doing for you as a trainer is to just give you idea of this point. It's your duty now to to go and read it and understand better. Data representation mean that all the information you gather from the stakeholder, can you put it in form of a diagram? It will help you to understand the requirement very well. Mind mapping, go and read mind mapping, affinity diagram. Because when you are building an application, you are building any work of your project, there are certain things what you are going to do that are common. You group them together. Anything that have to do with screen, the screen of your mobile phone you are going to build, put them together, all the activities. Anything have to do with the button, put them in one place. Anything have to do with hardware, put them separately. Anything have to do with the camera, all the activity, put it as they call it affinity diagram. You draw it, or you say context or use case diagram. They can also do what they call prototyping. Prototype mean that this is what me to do. You want me to build an application for you. You want me to build a mobile phone for you. I will go and build a small, we call it prototype. I will do a diagram and first show you and now present it to you. It's a smaller scale of what I want to do. If I want to build a house for you, I will go and do what they call plan. I say and the architect will do the architectural diagram of that house. So you now look at the diagram, you see the elevation, and you look at the diagram of the house in different dimension. Elevation, you look at the back side, the front side, the interior decoration. That's what architect did. So that's what they call prototype or story body. In the traditional way of doing project, call it prototype. In the what they call it, in the predictive, you call it prototype. In the that mean predictive mean plan driven. When you're talking about story building and storyboarding, you are not calling it the prototype again. When you are using adaptive way, you call it story boarding. You show me a small portion of the bigger thing you want to do. From that small portion, I can show it to you. Does it look like what you are expecting? That's a prototype. So these are